right, you're on.
Welcome, everybody, to the Jankyard Live, the only show about Ashes Reborn that matters, and also the only show about Ashes Reborn. And I'm your host, Killer Cactus, and with me, as always, are my two excellent co-hosts. We have The Treatment,
Hello, everyone.
and back from the dead is Schmendrix himself in a post-apocalyptic cityscape.
Yeah. Winning by default, as in being the only Ashes show around. The only way I can win. Win by opponent not showing up.
All I do is win.
No matter what. Treatment rocking the Jankyard hoodie.
Merch.
Mine is not clean.
I'm sure Chaos Theory has got a great Star Wars Unlimited podcast now, right?
He better. Otherwise, what is he doing over there?
Really should.
Better have all the tutorials.
So we thought we would talk about a little bit of the current meta post Molten Gold ban today. Also a little bit about One and Done, and then talk about some of these Illusion previews that have had the general chat in Discord going a little bit here. What do you guys want to do first?
Let's jump right into the previews. I'm so excited about them.
That seems to be the easiest thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Illusion set. I've been waiting for it too, just because I feel like Illusion needs an injection of stuff.
For sure.
And especially this first preview has some really good cards that are gonna shake things up, I think, and a couple that are actually very frightening. Like, I'm straight up scared.
Scared.
At least one of these
so
cards.
excited.
So let's start there. Let's start with Shade Prowler, because this card scares me. And it's just so we can recap what it is for any first time listeners. Ready spell, 1 illusion class, 1 basic to place a Shade Prowler.
Animane.
And Animane, yeah, in action. It's a 2 attack, 3 life conjuration with Predator 3. This unit is declared as an attacker. You may deal 3 damage to a target unit an opponent controls with an attack value less than this unit's attack value. And it has Fade, which says destroy it at the end of the round. So I will listen to you guys first and then talk about why this thing scares me.
First of all, before we analyze it, I just want to give a shout out to the flavor text on the spellbook. You'll know they were here by the corpses they leave behind.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Solid.
So
dark
good.
Stuff.
Yeah. It is solid. This thing's a crazy looking.
It's got a knife tail.
Yeah.
I'll join because I feel like Shmeni's always the balanced and reasonable view, so I'll start with going more extreme. I think this unit is bonkers good. It is a beefy body, which is something that Illusion typically doesn't have, which is, like, there's Dreamlock, but it tends to be the color that has cheaper X1 life units, and so it's really cool to see, but it's balanced by the Fade ability, and the 3 damage.
Yeah, we didn't mention Fade, which is did we? But it's destroyed at the end of the round.
Destroyed at the end of the round. Yeah.
Yeah, I tuned out. It's hard to listen to you for that long.
I don't disagree.
It's
a good thing I have a podcast.
Yeah, you can catch us on the review. Like, the 3 damage to anything that has less attack than it is, even without like any trickery, any buffs or anything, it's so good. It does exactly what you want Illusion to do, which is almost like it's a battle trick. It's a bypass tool. It gets past guards, which is something that is in theme. Like, there's Ensnare, there's you know, like the sort of like tempo type of cards, um, Shadow Strike, that type of thing. So it's so good. It's super thematic to be able to. It's almost like a stock, right? Like to be able to do two hits in one. Take out a unit guard and then go after something else, and then at the end of the round, self clears, which is really good. You don't want to have to invest in killing it because it's going to go away anyway, and it's a beefy body, so it's non-trivial to get rid of. I think this is going to be everywhere, and it's I forget. Did you say it's a class basic? I forget the cost of it.
Class
Yeah,
basic.
which is also
no
amazing.
book tax.
Yeah, and no book tax, which is that. It's perfect. I think this is such a good unit, and it's going to be in probably every deck that I play going forward. I like in general, just splashing one illusion, even if it's just for this book, is really good. But I really like the color combination of illusion and divine as a base to start with for a bunch of decks moving forward. Imagine crescendoing this, like you just hit two things for 3 and then still swing for 2 at some other body or to face. Or if you buff it, then it's even crazier because you can get it up to 4 relatively easy with a bunch of different things, and then it can blow up so many things. It's awesome. And then, well, we haven't talked about the one of my favorite knights, but the acrobat. It combos really well with that. It combos with a lot of things, which is what I like.
Frank, you want to take the under on this? You want to take the
no, I'm gonna double down on the over. I mean, I agree with everything he just said, and I mean, look, don't get me wrong, this card is super cool and super thematic, and it's gonna be a ton of fun to play with. But it just feels really pushed to me, like really pushed. It just scares me. Straight up, it's a scary card. I agree. I think it's going to be everywhere. I think there's going to be decks that want to play one illusion die just to have this book. And I'm like, that's if decks are putting one illusion die in like every deck just to play Shade Prowlers, like that's a red flag to me that we've got a card that's too good. Like it reminds me of Old Salt, right? Like people putting one ceremonial die in their deck just to play 3 Old Salts. And this thing is it's repeatable every round, right? Like Old Salt's a 2/3 for the same cost. It deals 1 damage on play. This thing is a 2/3 that you can repeat every round, and it hits something for 3. I mean, I know it takes another turn, but like it hits something for 3.
Yeah.
For when it swings. It only hits a little thing for 3, but like I mean, it kills a Ruby Cobra, it kills a 3-eyed owl, it kills a Gilder, it just kills all this crap. It's real good. And I mean, I know Fade is supposed to balance it out, but that's going to be a benefit in a lot of decks that want the self clear, that need to open up spaces, and that doesn't even get into like the playing refresh effects with it.
Yeah.
Which I think have more value than they do with other units because people are not going to want to kill this because it kills itself. But it sits there waiting to be refreshed by like. I'm super excited to play Rejuvenate with this thing, but I think you have stuff like Adrenaline Rush and other refreshes, Call to Action, that they're just crazy with this card. I mean, it's just the most pushed conjuration I feel like we've seen in a long time, and we haven't. I haven't played with it, so maybe I'm missing something, but I just don't. Like I look at this and I look at False Demon, which is exactly the same cost, and I'm like, why would I ever play False Demon ever again? This is just so much better than it.
I love that it's a proactive,
in my opinion,
illusion card, which is something that you don't like. Like you just mentioned, false demon.
Right.
You want to wait until the end of round to do something, and so many other battle tricks are like waiting for the opponent to do something to react. Like Shadow Spirit's like the only really proactive unit, and that just dies right away.
Well, I think that's the big. I mean, there are proactive units, but they all have 1 health often. Like Shadowhound, very proactive, but if you just have a Nature's Wrath, or if your opponent has one, you stop the Shadowhound pretty much in its tracks. But I think, no,
but even Shadowhound's not proactive. Like most of the time, you're playing Shadowhound and you're sitting there and you're waiting for the right target.
You could be sitting there and waiting for the right target with Shade Prowler too. I guess it depends on how you define proactive, but
yeah, I guess that's fair.
But Franklin, if Shade Prowler was a illusion power book tax like Frostback Bear, would that make it more balanced in your view, or would that make it unplayable in the other direction?
I don't know. It'd be interesting, right? But
because then you can't splat. It's not splashable.
Correct.
Yeah,
but I guess
really hurts
again,
not to have
what scares
around.
me the most of anything is like you can just splash 1 illusion die and play this thing.
Yeah.
And put it anywhere, right? And you can, 4 battlefield doesn't use more, don't care because it clears itself. I think they're gonna love this. Anything tempo based is gonna love it. Anything control based is gonna love it because it does all the things.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like it does all the things. That's what makes me nervous about it.
What
a heck of a card, and I'm gonna play the crap out of it.
Before we let Shmeny talk us down from our hype, one thing I really have appreciated in the last couple releases, and this one exemplifies it again, is each set has at least one answer to cards that became staples previously. So we've seen a lot of Shimmerwing since Charm came out, and Divine Set also has a lot of really good low attack units. I mean, Paladin besides the point, but everything else, like there's a lot of things where Prowler is an answer to, which is really cool. And then much like a lot of sets, the answers to certain cards are also within the set. So, Fate Reflection is going to definitely have an uptick in...
You mean within the color?
Yeah. Within the color. So, I think Fate Reflection is going to be important again. I mean, Era's End is outside of color, but there'll be other cards that I think will be played more now that Prowler is going to be around. And I don't know. I think Nick does a great job designing in that aspect, or in that regard.
I mean,
it's not like it doesn't have Yeah,
Era's End is a really good answer. That was all I was going to say.
Yeah, there are clear answers, and I think it's a really exciting card. I'm not going to talk you down. I was just going to talk about what I really like about cards this powerful is the way in which they warp, or not warp, but force reconsideration of other cards. And the cards that make me think about, given that we're a Jank podcast, are some cards from the very first set of this cycle that didn't see much play or haven't seen much play. One being Serve the City. I think that's kind of cool. And then Infuriate being another one, where you could just potentially Infuriate in, and now you're dealing 3 to pretty much any unit on the battlefield, and with a 4 attack. And, the self-damage on a unit that fades is not quite as concerning. You get less value, obviously, because you don't swing it multiple times. But to the extent it extends your reach, I think it's interesting.
Too.
Yeah, it's great for Bloodchains.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got the illusion one. So we talked about Umbral Acrobat. We all are in the church of body inversion.
Yep.
Having played it in Saria a lot, like I think this is a unit that Saria probably likes quite a bit. Because she already likes to run body inversion for Raven, and it doesn't contribute to her clog problems, as we've already talked about. And then on the flip side, like Regress has already seen a big uptick in play, but that's another card where I think you regress this thing, and it's like a very cheap and recurable answer to just not worry about this thing at all. Like it just completely makes it pointless. So there's definitely answers within the card pool, but like I said, I'm interested in playing around a little bit with some of the cards that really amp up its powers. I'll put one more plug out there, which is in later rounds. It does have 2 attacks, so massive growth is a possibility, and you basically anytime you can boost its attack, I think, to 4+, you've basically just created a free crescendo, right? So there's essentially nothing on the battlefield it won't touch with that 3 damage, which I think is pretty cool.
So many of those cards, the ceremonial cards in particular, are really like ceremonial and illusion is just a nice. I think it's a nice color combo, and having serve the city as an option is really cool, just to always get that buff and that swing. You said regress as more of a counter to Prowler, but I think it's also a really good offensive option too.
Works with, true.
Which is really neat. Being able to just toss on 3 damage to a knight is pretty sweet, and you're nerfing the knight at the same time, so all you need is a ping. There's just so many cool things. I really thought you were going to talk about reflections in the water as a counter to this thing.
I thought about it, but at some point, you gotta move on.
Nobody plays reflections in the water, and that is the answer to all of our problems.
I mean, it is the answer to a lot of problems. It just depends on how, I don't know,
I'm gonna try and play.
There are things like Judgment and
it's
Fighting
actually,
Spirit Shade Prowler. That's interesting.
It's actually the solution to Shade Prowler as well. The fade, anyway. If you don't want it to fade, you reflections after you use it to swing.
I think it's got an unexhaust. I think it says.
It doesn't matter if it's unexhaustible, right? Because reflections would you put it on your own unit, and then you trigger the order.
Oh yeah, it says including inexhaustible abilities. Discard this card at the end of this round. Yeah, I don't know where fleeting and fade.
You trigger them in the order of your choosing. So you would trigger the Prowler, which has no abilities, and then you would trigger the reflections.
So glad we found another use for our favorite card.
It's an overpowered card that nobody plays. Wolfdown at least will be everywhere now. Werewolf.
Huntmaster is also kind of a cool. I mean, all the attack buffing things are pretty cool with it. But
do we want to start talking about Acrobat now? Because we got.
Oh yeah, we got it.
All right, so Umbral Acrobat is the all illusion knight. She's an illusion power class and then a basic to play. 3/4/2 ally that has unit guard and invert. Whenever this unit is declared as an attacker, blocker, or guard, you may swap a target unit's printed attack value with its printed life value for the remainder of the turn. So I know Treatment is extremely excited about this girl.
This card sings to me. I think she is going to be really good. I mean, the ability to flip the life total on both attack and defense is just wild. It's going to be so good in so many situations, and it has unit guard, which is great. This thing can take care of a lot of problems and make the battle math really hard. So I'm very excited for it. Like, just having now a ping especially side action ping, like say a Blessing of Lightning on a bunch of things, puts virtually any card in kill range of Umbral. And it synergizes with so many different other tricks like that, which is really cool. I don't know that people have really started thinking too much about Umbral yet, but I see it's going to be really irritating. I think out of all of the like Chimera Charmer and Ember Heart and stuff like that, the ones that never really took off. What was the ceremonial night? It was like
I guess it was Calamity Golem.
Calamity Golem. Yeah. Paladin, is a staple. I think this is gonna be pretty common.
Treatment, if there's anyone who can say with a high degree of certainty or whose endorsement for irritating I take.
Yeah.
Seriously? It's
It's me.
Yeah, it's yours.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I do my best.
I agree. Just very quickly, couple cards I've been thinking about again in the context of like interesting combo potential, and I'll just toss out a pair of reactions. One again from the Red Rain cycle that hasn't gotten much attention is Intercession, which just grants it alert. It's already got unit guard, but just giving it the alert so that you can do this thing multiple times, I think, is pretty interesting because right now that is notably lacking. And then the other one that's kind of interesting, this is a bit wilder, is Shadow Strike. Specifically thinking about the fact that you could basically, use it to unit guard a weenie coming in, invert the knight that's sat back, and then Shadow Strike the knight to remove it. So there's some fun. I don't know. There's fun things.
Yeah, it works on offense with Crescendo as well in the same vein.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
But, yeah.
Shadow Strike is underplayed. If we're talking fun cards, I've always been a big proponent of Lightbringer. We may be seeing
a lot more illusion reactions. Yeah.
And Shadow Strike, and this is good. You can, again, I just mentioned being able to take care of cards that came out in the previous set. This is, I think, a potential counter. Granted, it needs like other cards to do it, but it's a counter to Paladin. Like you can flip it and pressure it or kill it. If it's not buffed, then a Crescendo or Shadow Strike or anything else, kills it, which is really cool. Because usually they don't want to swing with the Paladin right away. So I don't know. Lightbringer, Umbral, Prowler, and Fork Lightning. Start a deck with those four. Toss in a Shadow Strike, and you're off to the races.
I also like that she just like eats O2s when she attacks.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I mean, just you swing this or you guard it or block it, it just eats an O2. And we're in like an O2 meta right now. Bit.
Yeah, she's like a super stock on all those O2 unit guards.
Right. And it's just nice to have a good counter to that doesn't take up a spellboard spot like Body Inversion does.
Like if you have this and Prowler on board, you can kill basically anything. You can either flip your own Prowler and deal 3 damage to any 2 attack, like 3, like an Old Salt or a Bear, right? You can kill off one of those.
Mm-hmm.
You can swing the Acrobat at something, flip it, and threaten a kill there. You just swing the 2 of them and deal damage to an O2, flip another O2. Like you're going to be able to face a lot of walls and get through with just those 2 units, which is really, really cool because it's something that I think Illusion has struggled against. And then, we haven't seen a lot of the fearsome Realm Walker. Oh, You're on camera. Say hi to Frank and Nathan
Our
and everyone
audience of
else on the stream.
millions.
Oh, everyone.
Yeah,
Thousands.
everyone.
All
the
thousands
thousands
of you guys. Yeah. Good
Yeah,
night.
they're all here.
We haven't talked about Realm Walker in a long time, but like, if I'm facing those 3 cards on the board, you start thinking about scooping. Like, what are you going to put down in one turn that can deal with any of this?
Unchained Meteor.
Unchained Meteor. There you go. And
Frank, what
Illusion
else you got?
finally
What's
has an
after
answer
that?
to
Well-
Snake.
Oh, that's true. Snake is interesting.
Well, Paladin's been eating Snake for the last set, so it's
Yeah. So play
little
both of these
rougher.
and just GG. Still doesn't handle Dragon though. Can't flip the 3/3s.
no.
But Demona.
No.
We could trade. It's a unit guard and it'll tank it. No problem.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go.
Yeah. Yeah, really cool, like flexible card that can do a lot of things. I love this card. It's so much fun. It's just a really fun card that can do cool stuff. So I'm hyped
Yep.
for this one.
All
All
right.
right, so then we finish off this preview with Backflip. This is an action spell that's a side action on 1 illusion class. Return an ally you control to its owner's hand to add 3 to the attack value of another unit for the remainder of the turn. So another easy way to boost up a Shade Prowler just within the deck itself and explode anything you want, pretty much. But also just a really cool, like cheap side action combat trick, similar to like a Flash Strike or something that is it kind of comes out of nowhere at side action speed. I think this is I'm not sure how good this card is, but I think it's a really fun card that has a lot of cool uses. Especially with like if we get it with some quick strike units. I don't know, Light Swordsman's kind of hard because it has the side action cost, but Griffin and Raven and stuff like that to eat knights and obvious synergy with Shade Prowler, but
it's perfect for Light Swordsman because you drop Light Swordsman, you swing, pressuring guard or actually killing, a unit with 2 life, and then it's sitting there, right? Because it's got the quick strike, and you're like, well, now I can clear it using Backflip, bring it back to hand, and add 3 damage to something else.
I guess that's true.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is so super great. Hey Del, what's going on? We're just chatting about the first previews. I think it's another really cool card. Being able to bounce all kinds of units, again, like Illusion Ceremonial, bouncing fire archers, or that's kind of like the main one I would do it with.
Old Salt, Anchor Knot, these.
Yeah, Old Salt once it's in danger. Anchor Knots are good, of course. I know I have not really put any effort into Brennan Bouncy Castle, but the one time I faced Shmeny on it, it was a pain just between like hollows and Change of Heart, and you toss this in, and that makes it super annoying. Other cards that can make it really cool are things that come in off tempo. So Swift Messenger is one that would be really cool. Or if you're running ally heavy and you have, say, 1 ally on the board, you force a swing with Lightbringer, and then you play a Shadow Guard, then that other ally can easily come off and you're swinging for 6, which is nice.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of really neat things.
Yeah, I like it a lot with Terra Herder.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's a perfect combo with Terra Herder.
Right,
Yeah.
bounce the Terra Herder and then boost the Hatchling so that it gets its ability, and then you can replay the Terra Herder.
Yeah,
I think that's really cool.
there's just these three cards were like this. This is sweet. This feels like it's going to be a lot of fun.
I mean, we've sort of talked about Frostback Bear meeting its end as we're just not being played very much as frequently anymore. But anytime you are doing this attack boosting, I do think of the Terrify 1, and it could be interesting as a target for getting that attack boost in the right situation. I definitely like the idea of the Swift Messenger. It's a cool card. And also really good flavor text. Friends help friends kick other people in the teeth.
Yeah.
Very violent.
There's also, when with these three cards in particular, and knowing the Phoenixborn that they're coming with, they pair so nicely. Symboli. This is a Symboli card, right? This is just very clearly she wants to do a bunch of swinging, and then clearing her own board has always been the challenge, and this is perfect for that. You get to be a little bit more aggressive and then pop them right back into your hand and play them again, and who knows what her new card's going to be, but still makes Purify like useful to have because you're always going to have an ally in hand and you're swinging for big stuff. Prowler, the Fade, is again a perfect thing for both Symboli, Ramia, and Hope. Hope is, we've in the past have talked about, like, the one problem is that they can self-clog, and this is what the ability to do that, to fade away, is really great for them. It's all very thematic, it's all very on theme, and they all fit very well with the Phoenixborn that they're coming with.
Right.
Sure. All right, should we do the next
for the second preview? All right, so we have Summon Whisperer. So we have a main action, 1 illusion class to make a Whisperer. And it has a Focus 2 that you can spin a die down 1 level if you have Focus 2 online. And for that, you get a 1/1 with Haunt 1. When this unit is destroyed, lower 1 power die in the target opponent's active pool 1 level. If you can't, deal 1 damage to their Phoenixborn.
Dream Fracture on and it's a vulture. It's another bird. Dream Fracture on a stick. Very cool. I originally was, I'm still slightly annoyed that it's Focus 2 instead of Focus 1. I think that's a bummer.
Well, consider this is for Hope, I think, is the...
Well, Hope and Ramia, right? Ramia's new ability to draw their entire deck round 1 or whatever the heck it is. I understand that it fits again with the Phoenixborn it's coming with, but slightly bummed that, I don't know, too many Focus 2s are garbage. There are very few that actually are good and that make it easy to do. But I guess if you're playing Abundance, Spin Down, I do like that there's at least one more Spin Down trick coming into play, and making that a little bit more viable, and having it on a body is really good, and that it's inexhaustible.
The right kanji count for double down.
Duplicatable. It's just very cool. So I think in those Phoenixborns, definitely there's a lot to like about this. Combining with Vicky, Keepsake, that type of thing. There's a lot to like, and it's good to have a 1/1 unit. So it's not going to be like super common, but I think it gives a solid alternative to Shadow Spirit, which I've always struggled with outside of, I don't know, Rin, basically.
I think that's the second sentence of the Haunt 1 that is the money sentence, if you cannot deal 1 damage to their target Phoenixborn. Because I presume that one of the conditions under which you cannot is if you have no dice left in your active pool. So, I think, which creates a very interesting fork, right? Like, your opponent either is going to have to spin something down if they kill it early round, or if you can just let it go late round, now you've got something that is going to be able to deal damage to the Phoenix Spawn. So I mean, I don't know. I think there's fair degree of utility, and I feel like the damage on this thing could actually start to add up over the course of the game, especially if you go deep in something like Hope with Void Pulse, for example. You know, there's just going to be a lot of situations when your opponent's out of either dice entirely or dice to spin down, and you're going to start being able to pile on damage with this thing. So I think
It
this
does have
is.
to die though.
It does have to die, but Hope they don't have much trouble with that.
No.
And there are lots of ways of clearing these things on your own if you have to.
So who's going to be the first one to have 3 of these things out and go side action, magnify, main action, nature's wrath, hit a Phoenix Born for 6?
That's sick.
I want to see it.
I like it.
I mentioned it was like Dream Fracture on a stick, but it's actually technically slightly better because Dream Fracture requires you to have dice in your pool.
Yeah.
Whereas this does not. Like you said, that if you can't is more flexible than the Dream Fracture says then do a damage, but you have to spin down first. So it's pretty cool. Again, it's less of a sit back, but it's still a non-committal card. Like you can put it down anytime in the round and you know you're at least getting value out of it. You don't have to wait, which is really nice.
I think you have to wait for the right time to swing it, probably. But you're right in that I can put it down, and if they frog ping it, worst thing that happens is I get to spin a power die down. You know, which at least you get something right out of it. They trade, and I mean, you win the trade, right? If you spend a class die to put this thing down, they spend a power die to kill it, and then you still get a spin down on top of that. Like you're winning that trade
for sure.
So, I mean, it's in that instance, it does seem pretty good. I don't feel like there's a lot of instances where 1/1s are good investments, but I could be proven wrong with this one.
I know Brank has mentioned Jessa because it's a good fear card. Being able to put it down, let it sit there, it's gonna spin down your opponent's options, and or you can fear.
Real missed opportunity not making it recover 1 for Jessa. Surprised.
Yeah. Clearly, Nick does not think this is going in Jessa, so there you go.
I will say one of my favorite old decks of all time is the Dream Fracture Magic Siphon Jessa. I haven't played that in a long time, and this does fit pretty well there.
That's interesting. I don't think you've ever shown me that deck.
Ever seen that deck? Oh, I used to love that deck. It's been a couple years. Definitely like pre-Red Rains when I was playing it. I beat Tuxedo's Hope Creepers once with it.
Wow.
And that was like its crowning achievement. But it just played Mist Spirits and Salamander Monks, and then Dream Fracture and Magic Siphon, 3 of each, and it just like death by 1,000 cuts type of just ping you down with Screams and Dream Fracture the whole time while trying to plug the board with
Screams and Dreams
1/1s. Yeah. It was really fun, and this does fit pretty well into that, especially now that Salamander Monk's not as good as it used to be, so might have to screw around with that a little bit.
Playing double down with this thing is going to be fun.
Yeah, for sure. As much as I like to try and talk about underplayed cards that these new cards make relevant again, I still don't think Law of Assurance sees the table.
No.
It's never going to get played.
No.
But, Crescendo, again, another card. Illusion and Sympathy is another good color combination for a lot of these things.
True.
And we're not even at Sympathy Red Rains.
It's also inexhaustible, so it's a nice card with what's that turtle? Seafoam Snapper.
Oh yeah.
That's a good shout. That's a real good shout.
That's a real good shout, yeah. And then you got
Snapper
Realmwalker.
Hasn't seen a lot of play lately. Mm-hmm. But
That's one where you could turn Crescendo on in a slightly more complicated route too, where you eat the thing, spin down, power, potentially preventing a reaction to stop the Crescendo.
Acrobat.
It's a good card to get exhausted too, right? Because as long as you
Right.
pick you swing it when they don't have any power dice showing, which
Right.
playing a spin down deck probably isn't hard to do. You just swing it at the Phoenixborn, and they either kill it.
They're gonna let it go
or
through,
They just
right?
take one. Yeah, they're
Right,
probably gonna
exactly.
let it go so they don't kill something of their own, and then it's exhausted. And then you eat it with the snapper, and they get damaged anyway.
Yeah.
So you put them in this weird catch-22 where they either have to exhaust one of their things to kill it, or they let it go through, and then the snapper eats it, and they take the extra damage anyway.
And the one thing that stops that strategy is the 0/2s, but you've got now a bunch of stuff that just dumps on 0/2s in this set, including Prowler.
Right.
So
Right. And even still, like, it still exhausts the 0/2.
right, sure.
If they have to block it, so
It's true. It's a really good. This is actually, in that sense, like a good response to like a Lightbringer. It's like, okay, Lightbringer the Whisperer, fine, I'll send it at. Because the classic move, when you draw with Lightbringer is, block with Lightbringer so you don't get you don't get stuffed. That seems somewhat less appealing in this situation.
right.
I'm now
Cards
thinking
growing
about
on me.
Crystal Archer, like Time, Illusion, and Divine. Bring in Crystal Archer, bring in Griffin, Prowler, Lightbringer, something like that, in Hope with Whisper. 1, 2, 3. Yeah.
What's Crystal Archer doing? What's the combo with Whisper?
Well, and with just because of the extra ping, so with Acrobat being able to ping off things when you're swinging.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And being able to flip targets for Griffin is also really nice. Or like if you have an ally, like Swifty, right? Because you're also in color, being able to what was it? Juggle.
What's the next card? Why don't you say what it is?
Oh, sorry, yeah, that the next card is Juggle. Whatever the other card was, Backflip. That's what I was thinking of. But
Backflip.
Juggle is this is divisive, I think, among when we were talking about it. Side action card. Class 1 class illusion, 2 basic, so it's 3 costs, and it is raise 3 dice in your active pool 1 level, lower 3 dice in a target opponent's active pool 1 level, and deal 3 damage to a target unit that opponent controls. Flavor text: I guess this means I'm better than you.
Question mark. I guess this means I'm better than you? But yes.
Oh, there was a question mark. It's tiny font. Yeah. The 3 costs.
Yeah, this card caused a lot of debate.
Oof, I don't know.
In the Discord when it came out, it is.
Yeah, what was the? It's expensive, that's for sure.
It feels like it's one of those cards that's a half cost, probably too expensive. Like what? Spending 3 to flip some dice and deal 3 damage just feels super hard to value. Like, when are you gonna?
One thing I want to say is, yeah,
when are you gonna use this?
So, couple thoughts. One is, I think in a lot of situations, the last sentence functionally reads place 3 wounds, because the lower dice happens before the damage, and so you turn off Fate Reflection, you potentially turn off even Particle Shield. I mean, lowering 3 dice, you can take out quite a lot that your opponent could potentially respond with. So that 3 damage is going to land more than average. I mean, who knows exactly how much more, but more than your typical card. So I think that, and then if you get that to land consistently, and you're trading roughly even on the 2 dice that deal the 3 damage to, remove a 3 damage unit, then you're raising 3 dice and lowering 3 dice for a die and a side action. It's not It's not terrible.
I mean, so there's so many
No.
sources of 3 damage now that you have to compare it to. Like, I think there was an
Okay,
interesting
but which
discussion around
cost fewer than 2 dice, other than Crescendo?
fewer than 2 dice. I don't know, but
Shadow
like
Strike.
fewer than 3 dice. There's a lot of options, right?
I'll
There's
need more
Shadow
context to
Strike,
provide a specific
Crescendo,
answer. Please clarify.
um,
My phone tried to
Excav-
answer my question. I don't know why.
Excavate. What else is there for 3 damage?
Excavate's 2 dice. I mean, again, I think you have to. It's only playable in a situation where you really want to spend a die, where you're willing to spend a die to raise 3 dice and lower 3 dice. And if that's not a thing, then I think it's not the card for your deck.
Yeah. And the other, like, all of those deal 3 damage to something cards get Fate Reflected. This doesn't. Like, because it shuts off Fate Reflected.
95% of the time, right? Yeah.
Correct. And it, like, obviously, like, the effects that you get are worth the 3 dice. But the problem is that you would rather separate those into 3 different actions a lot of the time, or 1 die here or 1 die there. But like, to me, this is a bypass card, because not only does it shut off Reflection or Golden Veil or whatever against itself,
Figures.
but
Yeah.
it's a
Final
side
Cry,
action, right?
Spain.
So yeah, it shuts all that crap off, and you have a main action to do something with that is now also protected from all those things, and potentially a reaction, right? Like, there's a lot of times where I don't want to play Crescendo because I'm afraid of Fate Reflection, and now I can, like, side action juggle, kill something, main action Crescendo, guarantee kill something else, and still swing. I feel like this is a one of, like, I don't want to play 3 of these,
No, yeah.
but like this is like a stick 1 in your deck and blow somebody out with it when they're not expecting it.
It feels
If it's in a spin down deck where we're already playing Keepsake and we're already doing or playing Whisperers or whatever, we're already doing other stuff. I think it has a home in those types of decks.
it definitely feels like final swing for the game type of situation where you either have top of round or end of round and you're worried about, let's say you're playing against Jessa and you're like, I'm going to lose to a Final Cry or Sympathy Pain Screams, so shut them down, 3 damage to one of their blockers. It obviously is meant to pair with Acrobat, or at least thematically, it pairs with Acrobat really well to remove another blocker. It pairs with Prowler. You could remove 2 to 3 units very easily on a final swing, even if your opponent thinks like, I'm good, I'm sitting good, I've got 2 or 3 blockers, and then all of a sudden all of those are just dead. You add in a Crescendo on top of this, you kill 4 blockers in one swing. So there's a lot of value, but I don't ever see more than one of. And I compare it, or at least it made me start to think about if this is valuable, in particular with the Paladin meta. What is it? Shatter Pulse. Like, that's 3 dice. And the difference is you get to just straight up destroy another unit. And so in particular, in this current meta, where Paladin comes in, blows something up, it's kind of worth just immediately destroying a Paladin. And was it raising dice up or spinning dice down? I forget.
I think it's change the target player, but I'm not sure.
Target, yeah, two dice. So that's kind of the comparable to me, and it makes me want to first 5 Shatter Pulse anytime I see 5, like have a one of, and then first 5 it against 3 or 4 Divine Dice decks.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's the comparison, right? But Shatter Pulse can't really be used offensively.
No. But it just, in terms of comparing the value out of 3 dice for this type of card.
Yeah.
So I'm not like super high on it, but there's potential. I just don't know how often anyone's really going to be like, is this the 31st card?
Yeah, I mean, I think um, I think Frank's got a really good point in that. I think it's a one of, and it's a one of that I think I'm trying to think of another card that I would like where the card's value ramps so aggressively in the end game, like in a very tight locked end game where you're, empty on deck, you've got, 4 or 5 cards in hand, like so you can't afford to meditate anything. This thing's value is like through the roof. Like
Definitely
sinks two
endgame.
basic dice, fixes the rest. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a shame that cards like if there were like an ally. Oh wait, there are. I mean, does Ancestor Spirit allow you to place things at the bottom?
Yeah. That's where I would think in terms of filtering
Yeah.
this is what you would want.
Yeah, so something like an Ancestor Spirit, so that you're I was gonna go memorialize, but I'm not. But anyway, if the question you're answering requires memorialize, I suggest you're asking the wrong question.
No, Stallion.
Unless the question is, what card can Carl win with that no one else can? Yeah, Stallion's really
What you're
good.
saying is you play Ancestor Spirit and you first 5 both of this and juggle, and then you put the juggle on the bottom immediately and draw another random card.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Tech.
You'd have to be pretty confident that you're going to get to that locked endgame state, but it is interesting to.
Cole should be doing that with Final Stand, probably.
That's a cool idea. I like this.
Yeah.
I like
we'll get to the
Cole juggle Final Stand.
I was thinking Noah or Hope, right? Void Pulse or Shadow Blade with this thing. Again,
those are also
just
both really
sort of
good.
Blowing up an entire field and then getting your win condition in.
I just think in general, though, I mean, I would say action spells with a 3 dice cost, I put a very high bar on. Like, I can't figure out how to play whatever that Phoenix kick, whatever. What's
Phoenix
our
Barrage.
Lulu's card? Phoenix Barrage. Yeah.
Phoenix Barrage, yeah.
That card is hard to play, and that's probably better than this one. It's not a side action.
Hey, Fred.
The one other thing I'll say, I think I've talked about. I think we've talked about that. I test. I was very down on this card when I first started testing it because it seemed insanely expensive, and I saw at least a little bit of conversation in co-op. And I will say, I got a lot more utility out of it in the pre-con in solo than I ever expected to. So don't sleep on this in solo. This can really save your butt in a major way.
I definitely see the value. Like, yeah, every card that we're gonna get is not necessarily top tier PvP card, and being able to spin down 3 rage dice is a big deal on top of the 3 damage, which I think for the most part clears.
That even in the very first Chimera, that do spin down to you. So
yeah. So you're getting your dice back. You're spinning the rage down. You're getting 3 damage, which clears most 2 bloods. Yeah, there's definitely value there. So I can see the argument for PvE.
All right. Is Shroud even more controversial than Juggle?
Yeah, I think so.
I think it probably is. So Shroud is a ready spell that's a side action and one illusion class to play. After a conjuration you control comes into play, you can place 1 exhaustion token on this spell. If you do, that unit cannot be targeted by attack spells, abilities, or dice powers an opponent controls the start of your turn or the next round. This one's caused a lot of controversy as to whether or not it's a good card or just a garbage card.
I think so. I started thinking it was like okay, but I tend to be contrarian, and so as soon as the haters came out and said that this was not a good card, I immediately thought of all the situations where I would want it, and then I justified it to myself, and now I've been thinking about it more, being like, Actually, yeah, that's really cool. I would like one free round of protection for a bunch of these units to guarantee they can do their effect, and for free. After round one, you could have two or three of these things even, and you're getting a lot of value. So I thought of widows. I thought of creepers. Thought of a lot of the O2 units that are currently getting blown up by Paladin. Thought of Shadow Spirit, even like things that can easily get pinged
Snake.
away. Snake, um, Stallion, Tidal Crab, which has really taken a beating recently with ever since Frostwild with all the exhaustion stuff. Being able to protect Adaptodon to guarantee that it gets its alteration and even if you want to give yourself the extra turn to Shattering Fist, like there's just so many things that I started thinking about where I'm like, yeah, this makes a lot of sense. Being able to protect the Prowler, right, is really good. So I think, given that it's aimed at Ramia, Hope, Vicky, and to a lesser extent Sambali, but these Phoenixborns where they have the spellboard slot for this, and there are other either cheap units that they tend to run, especially Hope, things that they want to duplicate. This makes a lot of sense to me.
This is going to be one I have to play to understand it. I don't know. I mean, obviously, there's going to be times where it's good if you can protect something from Ice Trap that you really need to get on the board. That's good, right?
Yeah.
But it's not just Ice Trap. There's other things too, like you were saying. Like you protect it from Paladin, you protect it from Enter the Fray, you protect it from whatever it may be. I just don't know that it's worth a class die to do that, and especially a first 5 slot to have that online. I mean, once you get to round 2, it's now free, and obviously then it's great, but you've got to spend that first 5 tempo to do that in that situation. And it's, I don't know. I'm just gonna have to see.
My counter to that is there's currently a lot more tutoring available that makes a utility spell as a first 5 a lot less restrictive. So you're able to make.
But does that tutoring complement the strategy that this wants to do?
I don't know. No. First, we still have 3 other cards, but the ability to at least not miss out on a unit is still valuable. But I like the fact that this to me feels like an aggressive card in Illusion. That can do things in especially with quick strike units or things where you guarantee that you're going to get your swing off and then you don't care if the unit dies afterwards. Being able to protect a Griffin, being able to protect a Creeper, like all these 2/1s, things that right now have taken a little bit of a beating because there's so much cheap ping or free destroy. This is the answer to that. And it might be that there's so many of those decks out there that first 5 and guaranteed protection is worth it. Like, we talked, or in the Discord, I was talking about how popular Odette is right now. Is it worth protecting a Ruby Cobra or, an Adaptodon or something like that from Enter the Fray for 1 die? And then every round after, you're guaranteeing that it's free? Probably.
Yeah,
I mean, this is what my mind jumped right to like Ice Golem and Calamity Golem and stuff so those don't die.
Calamity Golem's really interesting to keep it from being festered. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm not surprised it was super controversial. I haven't been on the Discord much. It's a very niche card that, is going to have really low value in like a huge number of decks, and then potentially really transformative value in a smaller number. And I agree, I kind of want to play around with it. I don't think in that transformative value context, I think it's because it's simply saving, it's protecting it for a round. It's not enough for it to just, if you just have a blank 3/2 essentially and you want to protect it for a round from an ice trap, I don't think that's sufficient. I think you have to be getting substantially more value than that. So the kinds of things I would be thinking about would be like, you know, Mirror Spirit that you're summoning and you've got explosive growth in hand. So it's like potentially the kill shot and you really need it to not be ice trapped. Like
Yeah, for
explosive
sure.
growth, this thing is like kind of it's a force multiplier, so its value is going to be dependent on how powerful the thing that you're protecting is, and the existence of explosive growth, much to Frank's never-ending chagrin, angst, anger, I think raises the ceiling on something like this pretty substantially. Calamity Golem's another interesting one. I also think about something like Mindfog Owl. It's like if you want to protect like the N+1 kanji that gets you around the corner so that you can turn your Mindfog Owl on. I think that's another interesting one, and I wonder about it in like a Foggy Bear setup, frankly, which we don't see much anymore, but still curious about. So I think I think it is a complementary to kind of a bypass lethal tool. Like it's got so much value in that situation, but it feels very hard to get incremental value on. And despite my love of Jank, if there's one thing I've learned about Ashes, like that's a very, very tricky value proposition in this game. This is a game of like, yeah, the value ping, not the wombo combo, I think, most of the time.
I mean, it doesn't even. There are at least a couple decks where it probably doesn't need to be a first 5 option, and those decks would be the Donut Dog, the Mirror Spirit, the Wishing Wing types of decks, because
Oh yeah,
you're
Wishing
okay.
Wing with
Like Wishing Wing, you're okay with Fighting Spirit, even if you wanted to go for that, where you start off with, your full complement of board to get the Fighting Spirits buffed, and then when it's time that you have 4, 5, 6 tokens and you're ready for that final swing, and you're able to then guarantee that those wings come down and are sitting there and they can't be pinged away. That's pretty valuable.
Yeah, I mean, I think this card, yes, but I wonder about a world in which this card is free to place but costs a die to trigger its effect. I don't even know if we have anything like that in the game, so I'm not sure we have a framework for that.
Free to place, but
we have
cost, yeah.
Cards.
Yeah.
Like a body inversion type.
Yeah, but it's, conditional, right? It wouldn't be a side action. It would be like a weird reaction box,
Yeah.
Rejuvenate, isn't it free to put down and cost to...
Yeah, but it's a main action to activate it, but yeah.
I'm saying, yeah, anyway, but I that would be interesting, because then I wouldn't mind keeping my shred, like, if I've got a deck with a bunch of draw, this and high value relatively flimsy kanjis, then that gets really interesting, right? Because then I'm just loading them up and I'm waiting for my moment where I can start sinking dice into protecting them, because I think I've got the window of opportunities opened up. But the book tax, I think, makes it rough.
Yeah, I wonder about a card like Omen Bringer.
Yeah.
Like,
any of the on attack.
I can shroud. Yeah, I can shroud Omen Bringer, but like, there were ways to try and construct first 5s before where you get to activate a book twice with Omen Bringer, right? And you could never guarantee that because you're always afraid the Omen Bringer would die before you got it to swing off. So you can't set your first 5 up to make sure, like, all right, I'm going to summon 2 bears this round with an Omen Bringer.
Yeah,
Omen Bringer is interesting,
right? Because you're going to get that second swing off. or even a canyon shelter. Like if you have a unit you want to make sure survives, so that I can canyon shelter it right away. Like I can put canyon shelter down, summon something, shroud it, and next turn swing and shelter it.
Yeah.
I don't know what you do with that, but and then you could also, I mean, you can still use this with gates thrown open as well. So like, I like it with.
Oh, gates is good. That's a good call.
You mentioned Shadow Spirit earlier, and Shadow Spirit does feel like the best thing to do with this, because that thing constantly gets pinged away before it gets to swing and do its damage, and it's spin down. But like so like a some kind of illusion deck with Shadow Spirit, this thing, and gates, where you get to make 2 Shadow Spirits in the first round and shroud them both, and they both get to swing and do their spin down, seems pretty fun.
There's gonna be someone, you know, let's say it might be someone like Red King or Carl or whatever, who's gonna put this in Fiona with gates as well, and then just have constant refreshes and protection for all their cards, like that you just never you can never remove anything. You can't frog ping anything. You can't do anything. You just have to have Nature's Wrath or Meteor and hope that you can clear the board, and then they'll be at it's going to be like a value over time, where because you just can't remove things when they come down, they're going to guarantee their value either through trading or through actually establishing their long-term plan. But yeah, so it might be one of those ones that no one plays early on, and then eventually someone cracks it, and like, or Lark, he's gonna play something where it's just like, okay, you can't touch my board, like go. Yeah. I'm just spin you down forever, and you can't do anything.
Fox Spirit's another interesting one to get down and make sure it gets to swing for 3.
Or
weird Lightbringer Fox Spirit board.
What about Demona?
What about her?
There's been so many of these protecting the Imperium, because you have so many of these ally heavy decks where virtually no spell board, so you don't care if you've got one utility spell and you're guaranteeing to protect the Empyrean Mount. That's kind of interesting.
What are you protecting it from?
Well, because a lot what I found,
juggle,
especially especially at Gen Con, was killing the Empyrean Mount is more impactful to stopping that that synergistic swing of the Empyrean and the Dragon at once, because the Empyrean takes away the guard, so being able to protect that.
Yeah. What about Spectral Charger? It's kind of an interesting
that was another one. The Ghostly Mount book was another one that people talked quite a bit about with Shroud, and it does protect that thing from getting ice trapped, which is interesting and nice.
Carl's gonna play creepers with this though, and just be like, you can't touch the creeper, and you can't touch you can't touch the seedling. It's gonna happen.
Yeah. Probably.
That's a good point.
Right, those are all our illusion cards, and I mean, I'm pretty stoked about. I'm very excited about all of them. I'm just nervous about Shade Prowler, but I'm hoping that I'm just overestimating its actual power level and value.
I don't think you are. I think it's awesome. I think it's gonna.
We're all excited about it until Carl shrouds his seeds, so we can't Shade Prowler them, and then we're all sad.
Yeah.
And well, look, why don't we save the Molten Gold thing for a future episode? I do want to know if the Molten Gold ban has changed anything. We've already been talking for like an hour, so.
Too long, didn't read it, hasn't.
We save it?
Yeah.
I just have to jump back on and do it.
It hasn't? That's the answer?
That's the answer. It hasn't. No. But here's the thing. You need to get back into playing. Enough of these vacations, enough of these business trips. Like, focus on what's important, which is not family and friends and earning a living, but playing Ashes competitively.
Anyways, right.
Making myself feel bad about a niche card game. Sounds
Exactly. Speaking to our two viewers, Fred and Dell.
Yeah.
right.
We'll get 10.
I'm
more
excited.
on the watch.
We should do the next one when we have the next 6 cards.
This is my moment. I've been a Symboli stan from the very beginning. So if Nick writes her a good enough signature card, I'm back, baby. I'm in.
Do it. I'm more excited about seeing Victoria's signature card.
What could it possibly be?
No, we already know
Anything else.
it's gonna. What was it? It was like a utility spell or something. Or
How do you
spell.
know? Did he drop a hint?
Didn't Nick say something like that? I thought I saw somebody in the Discord mentioning that we knew we were going to be disappointed and that she wasn't getting fixed.
We were going to be disappointed.
We're all going to be underwhelmed no
I'm
matter
hoping
what.
in 2 days we're going to see it.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know about
it
that,
could
'cause
also
we'll see
be the other
last 3 cards of the. Yeah.
Last time they did a double though. They did a Thursday, Friday, or Wednesday, Thursday, back to back. So who knows?
Maybe... We haven't seen any of the Chimera cards, have we?
Nope.
No. So it could actually be 2 weeks away. It could be like they do Chimera cards this week and then resume the player cards the week after. But that's fine.
I think they've usually done all the player cards first.
Well, who knows? You can't predict it. It used to be Wednesday whenever Charlotte had a meeting, and then last set was Thursdays and Fridays.
Charlotte's one weekly meeting. How do I work for her organization?
Now we're putting up previews on Mondays. It's chaos.
Mm-hmm.
Except this week when we had to record.
Anyway.
Yeah. I know.
I want to see this Chimera anyway. I'm still bitter about the fact that I wanted it to be a blind Chimera and it did the exact opposite. Found the animal with the most eyes possible and made it the Chimera.
What is it again?
Spite me. Spider.
It's a weird
spider. Yeah, right. Okay. Well, I mean, that still gives us a lot of opportunity to talk and more time for games. Because by then we'll also have at least one round of one and done, another round of one and done, which is a really cool tournament. Shmeny will have played some games. You'll know whether.
I put my dog on camera. He doesn't want to come up here. Oh, all right.
Oh, there he is. Cute.
Can your dog say, "If you're not janky, you're stanky"?
You say that, Uno. Look.
Can you say wolf
What's
down?
your dog's name?
Can't.
Uno.
Uno. Yeah.
Nice.
Uno Reverso.
He just wants all the pets right now. That's all he wants.
Well, you're busy.
So it's good to catch up with you guys.
Yeah.
Go Illusion.
I'm so excited.
Wolf down.
Absolutely. It's going to be a fun set. Wolf down, y'all.
And if you're not janky, you're stanky. Have a good night, everyone. Catch you on the flip side.
All right, guys. Peace.